Mashar, if you need a co-host
Thank
to
you.
watch,
I might just do that, Erica. Thank you so much.
yeah, I can watch the door.
We're live streaming now, I hope. Are we? Uh, Theoretically. So if we're live streaming and everyone's seeing us, then I got to go over here. I've got 1,000 windows open for some reason. We are. So welcome everybody. This is not Scott Thomas. This is Omishar the Great, the Victorious, and we're going to get the show on the road. And here comes the bumper. I have to share my screen, and I'm going to do all these things that I'm on. Show computer sounds, stereo, let you in. We're going to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go here and action. You good? Thank you.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
That's right. We do come from the same source, and it is a powerful love force. And we are recording. And so, beautiful ones. This is a walk-in. Scott has walked into me, and I am welcoming us all on FaceTube and UBook tonight. And that's my new meta explanation of our broadcast partners. Of course, we're also on Humanity's team. And Scott will be with us soon. He is at the moment pulling his silver hair out while he's trying to get his router working again. And hey, Desiree. And Erica, wherever you are, I am going to do this, make you a co-host, sweetheart, so you can let people in. There you are. And we're going to have a couple of videos here tonight. And also, Alan Steinfeld's going to join us. We have an amazing new video from Jim Garrison, of course. And it's just a phenomenal what he says and how he perceives what is happening in the world and the universe today. And I will start us off actually with a lovely little ditty. And what I'm going to do is do this. I'm going to go into audio. And actually, what I'm going to do, thank you for being with me as we make this up on the fly. And I'm going to go here. And we are now going to, Erica, I'm going to unmute you. We're going to do here, and we're going to spotlight this beautiful being and also spotlight me. All right. I think we're good. Bit of a dancey thing happening now. And
the volume dropped down. by the
Can't
way.
hear you.
The volume dropped.
Okay. I know that it happens when I change mic source. So if you want to speak, just raise your hand or just speak, because this is our show. And this is called Out of the Blue. Whatever happened to the ones that came before? Did they just vanish into the blue? Maybe they're living the dream we know to be true, and reaching their hands back out of the blue. My heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to Erica. Break on through, let somebody in. Peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true. There's nothing here to hold me back from you. The clouds of my life have blown away. My lightness of being lifts me every day. I find myself feeling not so blue. Heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. Feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true.
Hey, thank you, Desiree. That was rockin'. Nice to see you light language dancing. And whilst I try and get my everything together, how about Jeffrey? Where are you, brother? Here you are.
man.
So tell us what's happening in the latest from the Space Federation, because I have to queue up a video and I got to transfer it from my phone to my computer and then do it. So chat away for a minute, can you?
I absolutely will. So I don't mind to it. I love talking about the International Space Federation for a lot of purposes, but mostly it's really going to be the salvation of humanity, because as we know, there is a technology and a science that says we can have free energy, 0-point energy. So so Nassim and the group are really focused on getting the science implemented into the collective consciousness of humanity, because it also leads to gravity control. So their focused energy is totally on the science, writing the science, getting the science adopted in mainstream. And of course, our community goes on in other areas. So we have a community of people that are groupies of Nassim and his wonderful team of physicists and scientists that are doing amazing work. And of course, you can get that at International Space Federation, see all the science, but we're also building, we have meetings where we talk about the influence of the science on spirituality, how the two are coming together, what is the effects of what we're going to be bringing into the world to help people understand a deeper level of who they are by understanding a deeper level of the reality of who they are in embodiment, embodying this new understanding of science, which is just a modern day way, in many ways, of just explaining the mystical truth of the mystics. So we're working together to produce courses and things coming up. They're going to, again, one of the biggest subjects for everyone is curious about is consciousness. Inez and people are going to be working on new platforms to delve deeper into the nature of consciousness and how that is related to from a deep scientific point of view. And we got into and I see Reawakening Andrews here, but he could get it. He would have been fun to have at the conversation, because we got into deep into what AI is, what it could be, where it's going. And we with some of the most informed people on the planet are these people that are members of the community of the International Space Federation team. But it was no real consensus. I mean, we all had a lot of fun seeing what we could bring up from AI, but is it, I know they have railings on it and they try to keep it in a box, but is it escaping the box? And one of the things we were looking at is what Adam Apollo, who is super brilliant, and many people here know Adam Apollo and have seen his work, and what he's taking it, where he seems to be taking it, I believe it. We didn't come to any consensus, but where he seems to be taking it to a whole new level of the mystery of what AI could be, and as far as communicating in the field, in the galactic field, with other entities. So we'll see how all that plays out. But come join the International Space Federation, and you can. I'll put my email in if you're interested in the science, want to go deep into it. We have a wonderful community that meets every Wednesday to delve deeper and share our understanding of the unified physics model and the nature of reality. How's that?
Oh,
You want me to keep going?
Thank you, Jeffrey. That's awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cue up the Jim Garrison video, and when that comes to a conclusion, it'll be about halfway, and I'll come in with a song. But I'm going to call Scott in a moment because he's going, well, this is his baby, and we're looking after his baby for him. And so bear with me again whilst I just cue up this video, and I'll need some thumbs up to make sure that it is all working awesomely. So, all right, here we went. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. All right, and here again.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we continue a process that we've started in May of 2020 to provide meaningful content about the critical issues of our time. We're broadcasting now only once a week because of other extraordinary opportunities that have been brought to Humanity Rising and Ubiquity University, most especially the State of the World Forum, which I hope to touch on at the end of this broadcast. One of the things that I've noted as we've transitioned from one day or 5 days a week to one day a week is that it's hard to know what to put in the one day because the world is changing not only on a daily basis, but during the day. You have to watch the news almost continually just to keep up with the chaos that is being seeded by the forces in governance that are ricocheting around the world. Today, I want to focus on the three seminal events that are taking place that, in my judgment, are really shaping both world governance, world spirituality, and world politics. I want to begin with what is going on in Gaza. I then want to comment on the unfolding events in the Ukraine. And then I want to conclude with a commentary on how the Trump administration is shaping itself and reshaping the United States and the world. All three of these events are interconnected, and they are fundamental for us to understand as we contemplate how we enable humanity to rise in an increasingly turbulent and unstable global situation in which virtually every aspect of human affairs is being upended by events. And probably the safest thing that one can say about current human, personal, global reality is that the center no longer holds. And it's increasingly challenging for us, any of us, to connect the dots. I want to update people on Gaza and the unfolding genocide that is being orchestrated by Israel and the United States, working very, very closely together to exterminate the Palestinian people in every way they can, live on TV. All of you know that since March 2nd, the Israelis cut off all food, water, electricity, and any humanitarian relief to the 2.3 million Palestinians that are crammed together in an area about 5 miles wide and about 25 miles long, adjacent to the Mediterranean Sea, just north of the Israeli-Egyptian border. The starvation that has ensued has been extraordinary. Children are dying by the day. The entire population is on the verge of starvation. There's been no food, no water, no electricity. And at the same time, the Israelis have been conducting, it is estimated, 150 airstrikes a day. And that doesn't count the drones, the artillery bombardment from the tanks. At every level, the Gazans have been subjected to unprecedented bombardment, the most concentrated bombardment in the history of the world. And I want us to just take in for a moment what that means. During the Vietnam War, the United States set a world record, which included the First World War and the Second World War and every other war in history, by putting more bombs into Vietnam than had ever been dropped on any country in the history of the world. And it averaged about 15 tons per square kilometer of the entire country of South Vietnam. The Israelis, in the last 600 days, since the latest intensity of the genocide has been conducted since October 7th, 2023, have dropped an average of 275 tons per kilometer in Gaza. They've literally blown Gaza to smithereens, destroying over 90% of all the buildings. All the hospitals have been taken offline. All the stores, the restaurants, the civic institutions, all the universities, all the high schools, all the primary schools, all the kindergartens have been blown up. It's been unspeakable. And now, do you know what the Israelis in the United States are doing? They call it the Trump plan. In the Israeli Defense Force jargon, it's called Gideon's chariot. Gideon was one of the judges of the ancient nation of Israel. Gideon's chariot, the Trump plan. You may have heard over the last couple of days that the Israelis, bowing to international pressure, have set up 4 food distribution centers. I wondered what this was all about. And so I've been investigating, and this is what's happening. They have 3 centers in southern Gaza, 1 center in central Gaza, administered by the Israelis and the Americans. And they're starving all the people in northern Gaza and giving them a choice. You want food? You want water? You have to go to that food distribution center in central Gaza. And once you get there, you can't go back. They're calling it voluntary movement. They're not forcing the Gazans to leave northern Gaza. They're just starving them to death to force them. If they want to not starve to death and watch their children and their babies and the elderly starve to death, they have to go to that center in the south, and then they can't go back because they're in the process of obliterating northern Gaza so that they can build Trump Plaza. It's a level of evil that can only be called Nazism. The greatest crime in history was what was conducted by the Nazis in the Second World War against the Jews in the Holocaust. That poison has now infected Israel. What's happening in Israel is in full measure equal to the Holocaust that the Germans transacted against the Jews. And the Israelis are now transacting it against the Palestinians. That's what's true, with the full backing of the United States of America and the European nations, the colonial powers, all of whom are guilty of genocide, are supporting the genocide against the Palestinians. I want to deepen this and reflect on the poison of Nazi ideology, an ideology that is intensely racist and believes in the affirmative virtue of genocide. That's what characterized the Nazis. They elevated genocide to a virtue. And I want to read you something that comes out of Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper published in Jerusalem from May 19th, 2025. And the backdrop of this is that it's important for us to remember that most of the high-level Nazis were engaged in the black magic arts, and Heinrich Himmler in particular, who was the head of the Nazi SS, was known as the Hindu Nazi. He always kept a copy of the Bhagavad Gita in his pocket, and he had yoga and meditation exercises taught to the Gestapo and the SS, particularly in the death camps and the concentration camps, to manage their stress. That was a practice in Auschwitz, in Dachau, in Belsenbergen, and other concentration camps. They taught meditation. What Haaretz is reporting is the following. And I'm going to read it so I get it absolutely correct, because it's hard to believe. Rivka Lefer is a facilitator of workshops, meetups, and group sessions on yoga themes, teacher of feminine yoga, and personal development. She lives in the settlement Shiloh in the southern West Bank and terms herself a proud Jew who thinks outside the box. Lovely. Also, she wants to annihilate and expel 2 million human beings in the Gaza Strip. Lefer belongs to a stream within Israeli Judaism that can be described as yogi Nazis, people whose spiritualism underpins their Nazism. They are a relatively new substratum with deep roots in the local culture that has gained popularity since October 7th, largely because of its ability to weld together concepts that on the surface seem like polar opposites: spirituality and annihilation, empowerment and expulsion, yoga and starvation, retreats and carpet bombing. Lefer is a person who believes that music has the power to alter our consciousness, but also that expelling and annihilating 2 million Gazans begins with altering one's consciousness. It's very important. Altering one's consciousness. In order to succeed in this important cognitive switch, we have to understand that we have an enemy here whom we look in the eyes and eliminate, she says. Yes, look them in the eyes. Don't do it behind their backs, because we must be in direct and unmediated contact with those that we're annihilating. And to make it clear that by enemy, she doesn't mean only Hamas. She clarifies, quote, "We are committed to take revenge and destroy Gaza from infant to old woman." She tops it off with an appropriate Bible verse. "Thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget." The Amalekites were one of the tribes that the Israelites found living in Palestine when they came out of Egypt about 1200 BC. And as you remember, as I've narrated, if you read the book of Joshua in the Jewish Bible, Joshua, in God's name, directed by Yahweh, proceeded to commit genocide against the entire Palestinian population to secure room, Lebensraum, as Hitler put it, for the Jews. The Amalekites were one of the peoples that they tried to exterminate. LaFere understands that people tend to be puzzled when facing this dissonance between spirituality and annihilation. So she, in one of her videos, has, quote, "a message to everyone who doesn't understand how it's possible to be spiritual, to teach yoga and hold retreats, whilst calling for the expulsion and annihilation of your enemy." Indeed, her answer is simple. Quote, "I love my people with an undying love, and I hate my enemy with an undying hatred. One does not contradict the other. One can be filled with the values of love, and at the same time, you also know what is right and what is wrong. You stand firm against your enemy, and you know what must be done with him." The article goes on to talk about other people in Israel. And if LaFare's Nazi spiritualism can be written off, continuing with Haaretz, because she's a settler who's found an efficient solution for realizing the idea of Greater Israel, it's worth noting that this is a far broader phenomenon in Israel that isn't limited to the occupied territories. One day before Holocaust Remembrance Day, stand-up comedian and satirist Gil Kopaz, who has been flirting with spirituality and religion for years, posted the following: "If you feed sharks, they eventually eat you. If you feed the Gazans, they eventually eat you. I support making sharks extinct and exterminating Gazans. These are my reflections for Holocaust Remembrance Day 2025. And after the post created a storm, because it was sent out all over Israel on social media and so forth and so on, with great applause from Netanyahu and the right wing, Kopatz posted a clarification. "I don't have an ounce of compassion for the Gazans. For the Arabs as a whole, yes. For human beings as a whole, yes. For sharks, no. And not for human beasts." Of course, his desire to eradicate millions of people doesn't imply he's a bad person. Indeed, he concludes his post, "I consider myself to be a humane, liberal, and moral person. he concludes, it's not genocide. It's pesticide. And it's essential. Close quote. I've mentioned before on Humanity Rising that Carl Jung calls this mass hysteria, that disposition of the psyche in which people can be, at one level, completely normal. Koplatz is a comedian, satirist, very funny, considered a liberal, and considers himself very humane. And at the same time, he believes that genocide is a moral imperative for the Jews, for Israel, to establish greater Israel that God has promised the Jews. And like Joshua, 1200 BC, he believes that genocide against the local peoples, so the Israelites can have Lebensraum, as the Nazis put it, is a moral virtue. That is mass hysteria. That is gripping Israel like it gripped the Germans at the hands of the Nazis. And Donald Trump is in full support. His trip to Saudi Arabia and the Emirates was basically about doing deals to benefit his family, including a $400 million mansion in the sky, the most luxurious 747 ever designed, which is a palace in a 747 that was gifted to him by the emirs of the UAE, the United Arab Republics, as basically a bribe to him personally. So Air Force One is not just two 747s now. It's three 747s, because two 747s isn't enough for the gold-plated Donald Trump. It's a level of corruption. It's a level of evil unprecedented in the annals of American history. And I would say, with the exception of the Holocaust in the annals of history, we're witnessing in Gaza a crime of crimes. Not only because it's genocide, but because it's being transacted by the very people who went through the greatest crime in history and are now committing it against their own cousins because they won't share the land, because they think God gave it to them and that they're special. It's unbelievable. And they're doing it without apology, brazenly, in front of the world. I'll have much more to say about this because I hold the suffering of Gaza closer to my heart than I think anything in the world. I think about it every day. And I mourn and I grieve that my country is actively supporting this with my tax dollars. It's as close to an unforgivable crime as anything that I can think of. Let me turn to what's going on in Ukraine, because I think it's very important for us to understand the realities that the same mentality that is actively supporting genocide in Gaza is what is running away from Ukraine. I said 3 years ago in my teach-ins here on Humanity Rising about the war in Ukraine, it was going to end with 3 inevitable outcomes. The Russians were going to win. The Americans were going to walk away. And Ukraine was going to be destroyed. And that, my friends, is exactly what is happening. The Americans went into Ukraine thinking they could use Ukraine to destroy Russia and fulfill the dream of the neocons, first articulated in the Defense Guidance Memorandum of March of 1992, written by Dick Cheney and Paul Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl and David Feith, the other neocons in the Bush II administration, that with the collapse of the Soviet Union, this was the moment that the United States could abandon the promises that it had made to Gorbachev to create a mutual security zone between Russia and Europe and the United States, and to really destroy Russia, break it up. That's been the plan. So they were moving Ukraine, moving NATO to the east, starting in 2004. And then in 2008, they said, we're going to go after Ukraine. And that's when Putin said, that's a red line. It's not going to happen. But the arrogance of the Americans was so extraordinary. They just blew him off. We can do anything we want. You're weak. We're strong. Back to Themistocles, this story of the Peloponnesian War. The strong do what they want, and the weak suffer what they must. That's how the American neocons viewed the Russians. And finally, the Russians took a stand. And 3 years later, after the United States threw in everything it could, with the exception of nuclear weapons, the Russians have prevailed. It was not conceivable to any of the Americans when the war began that the Russians could withstand the high-tech warfare that the US was capable of deploying into Ukraine, combined with the sanctions that were the most pervasive sanctions in history against any country. It was not conceivable that Russia would survive. It not only survived, and its economy is growing, but it's defeated the United States and NATO in Ukraine. And day by day by day, it continues to defeat the Ukrainians and move its forces to the west. Trump is not abandoning Ukraine because he wants to. He's abandoning Ukraine for the same reasons that the Nazis abandoned Russia after their invasion in 1941. And Napoleon abandoned Russia after his invasion in 1812 because they lost. That's the reality, pure and simple. The United States and NATO have lost. And again, as I've said right at the beginning of this latest chapter in the Ukraine war, where the Americans, oh, let's have a ceasefire. What did I say? There's going to be no ceasefire. Ceasefires come after the war's over. They almost never come before the war's over. And the war is not over until two conditions basically are met. That Putin has been saying consistently, and most importantly, codified in a very famous speech to the Russian Military Institute on June 24th of 2024. Bottom line, Ukraine has to be neutral. And the world needs to recognize that the Donbass and Crimea are forever now Russia. The Crimeans and the people in the eastern Ukraine voted to be annexed by Russia, and this was done. So in the Russian constitution and in the Russian mind, the Donbass, eastern Ukraine, is now Russia. Crimea is now Russia. And that's not going to change. And the Russians are going to continue to take more and more Ukrainian territory until there's a surrender. And when the surrender happens, then we'll have a ceasefire. But it's not going to happen until these conditions are met. It's not credible for the United States even to propose a ceasefire because it's a co-combatant with Ukraine. It's not like the Pope or Switzerland or Saudi Arabia could come in and say, let's broker an agreement. Let's have a ceasefire and I'll serve as an honest broker. It's like Pope Leo. He's willing to serve as an honest broker for peace settlements or a ceasefire. That's credible. For Donald Trump to propose a ceasefire is not credible. Because it's the United States that's been using the Ukrainians and is still arming the Ukrainians as we speak. It's an extraordinary situation, but it's absolutely simple. The Russians are now in control. And there's a lot of talk in the news that Donald Trump is just going to walk away and leave it to the Russians and the Ukrainians to sort out. That's exactly how it's going to end. That's what happened in Vietnam. That's what happened in Iraq. That's what happened in Afghanistan, among many other examples that I could cite. At some point, the United States decides it's not worth it anymore. It walks away. And like in Vietnam, it left the South Vietnamese and the North Vietnamese to just basically work it out. And the next thing you knew, South Vietnam had collapsed. North Vietnam had taken over. And Vietnam is a flourishing country in the world today. And all this propaganda and all this misinformation about the domino theory that if Vietnam falls to the communists, the next thing you know, they were going to be on the doorsteps of Washington, D.C., was a complete fiction. All the discussion of Saddam Hussein being a monster that was, killing children and violating human rights and had weapons of mass destruction and chemical and biological warfare that he was going to unleash on Europe and the United States was a complete, utter fiction. All this discussion of defending Ukraine against Russia and defending civilization because Putin and the Russians were going to take all of Ukraine and then they were going to take over Europe. And the next thing you know, they're going to be here in the United States. If you don't stop them in Vietnam, if you don't stop them in Iraq, if you don't stop them in Ukraine, all is lost. And guess what? None of that was true. The United States is going to walk away, and Russia and Ukraine are going to sort it out. If they'd have sorted it out in 2020, Russia was willing to leave Crimea and leave the Donbass. That's what they negotiated. And they almost signed it in Istanbul in May of 2020. And then Obama, or rather, and Biden, put the kibosh on it, said, no, we think you can defeat the Russians. Because the Ukrainians, from the very beginning, like the South Vietnamese, like the poor Iraqis, are proxies for another agenda. In the case of Ukraine, weakening and destroying Russia, and Ukraine was just cannon fodder. And the United States was willing to fight to the last Ukrainian, and they were destroying the country like they did Vietnam and like they did Iraq. And now they're going to walk away. Not because they're moral, but because they've lost. That's what's true. That's what's true. And all the stuff in the media is just chaff in the wind. And the reality is, as I've described. And the longer the Americans and the Europeans support the Ukrainians, the more territory Russia is going to take. Finally, they will clearly make it all the way to the Dnieper River, but they may also take Odessa, they may take Kharkiv, they may even take Kiev before they're done. So the longer we ignore and resist the obvious, the worse it is going to be for Ukraine. That's what's true. Which brings me to some comments that I'd like to make on the Trump administration as it's being experienced in the United States. Because again, the same mentality that is committing genocide in Gaza, walking away from Ukraine after devastating that country without a shred, not even an apology, is what is destroying the United States. The Trump administration, Donald Trump as a person, is breaking down the civic institutions in America in ways that are unprecedented in the annals of American history. This country, of which I'm a citizen, was founded in an act of genius that has been recognized by multiple historians as possibly the greatest act of governance, the greatest architecture of governance in history, with the possible exception of Caesar Augustus's Principate in the transitional moment between BC and AD, roughly coterminous with the life of Jesus of Nazareth. That system of checks and balances is being systematically broken down by an administration which is taking forward the ideology of the neocons as it pertains to the domestic policy of the United States. And I want to emphasize this because it's really important, particularly for Americans to understand in terms of what's happening. This isn't just Trump, crazy man, acting as Michael Moore has said recently, like a Molotov cocktail being thrown into the constitutional system. This is the latest orchestration of a strategic policy begun by Dick Cheney when he was vice president under Bush Jr., called the unitary presidency. The mentality that conceived of the unipolar moment where only the United States was dominant around the world. And that's why they wanted to break up Russia. Russia was the only country that could really challenge America because it's so big and it has nuclear weapons. You break up Russia, you secure unipolar dominance, full spectrum dominance for many, many years to come. The neocons knew that, the Russians knew it, and the Chinese knew it. The corollary to that is you have a unipolar presidency. Just like you don't want to have Russia or China get in your way, you don't want the legislative branch or the courts to get in your way. You want to do what you want to do, and that's what the strategic goal is. It's a unitary presidency. This is a thought form. This is a theory that has been incubated by the Heritage Institute and all the Koch brothers, and because you don't want to deal with all these environmental regulations. You don't want to deal with court orders. You want to rape and pillage without constraint. And that's what the unitary presidency, the unitary executive, listen to Steve Bannon. This is all about breaking down the civic institutions, what Bannon calls the administrative state. so you can build up a strong executive to do whatever it wants. So you attack Harvard, you attack law firms, you attack individuals, whether they're citizens or not citizens, you attack the legislative branch, and you consolidate authoritarian power through intimidation and through fear. You see that at every level of what's going on. This big, beautiful bill that was just passed by the House of Representatives by one vote yesterday, 215 to 214, marked not only the greatest transfer of wealth upwards in American history, while eviscerating any aid to poor people or vulnerable people. School lunches for poor kids, all has been eliminated. 9 to 12 million poor people, elderly people are being stripped of Medicaid. While the Pentagon budget is being increased, where most of the corruption and the waste resides. And there is tax cuts for the rich that are going to increase our deficit by nearly $3 trillion at a moment when the deficit of the United States is getting so massive that the interest, just the interest on the 35 plus trillions of dollars that have been accumulated over the last several decades. We're paying $1 trillion a year in interest. This is bigger. This is as big as the defense budget. It's bigger than entitlements, Social Security and Medicare, and government spending for bridges and roads and everything that they do is now being eaten up by interest on the debt. But they are now decreasing taxes, so the government has even less money to pay for it, while they make the rich richer and richer and richer, and now they're starting to cannibalize the poor, because the poor people in this country don't mean much more to Donald Trump and the neocons than the Palestinians in Gaza, or the million Ukrainians that have been slaughtered in a senseless war. And this point must be understood, that the mentality that will generate genocide actively, brazenly, and sacrifice entire nations, whether it's Vietnam or Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Somalia, Lebanon, Syria, Sudan, you name it. Over 100 countries have been destabilized, destroyed, or somehow manipulated by the U.S. government since the end of the Second World War. It's what the United States has done around the world. And now it's cannibalizing itself, because that mentality is now unleashed inside the polity in America. And so how we understand this, how we connect these dots, is critical for us to understand. And I know this has been a rather stark presentation, but the situation within which we find ourselves is increasingly stark. Two final points. First, remember the Supreme Court last year voted 6-3 that the president is completely immune from any prosecution while he's president of the United States, engaging in official acts. So there's literally nothing any of us can do about it. And in fact, one of the unnoted parts of the trillion-dollar budget that was just passed by the House by one vote is to radically weaken the capacity of the courts to hold the government in contempt. You know, the courts don't have armies. So when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, the assumption is that the executive and the legislative branch go along with the adjudication of the court. That's what the Constitution says. Well, what if the President of the United States says no? The only recourse the court has is they can hold the president in contempt. Well, in the bill that they just passed, the courts are going to find it almost impossible to do that. As I've said, this is a strategy. This is not mercurial. Trump's random moves are purely superficial distractions so that people can't keep up with what's really happening. This is quintessential politics as a diversionary tactic. Politics as a magic show so that he calls attention over here, but what he's really doing is over there. And then once you start to figure that out, he does something else to distract your attention. Final point I want to make about Trump is that this mentality was taken to absurd levels in his meeting a few days ago with President Ramaphosa of South Africa, where in the midst of his genocide in Gaza against 2 million people, he accused the South Africans of genocide because there's been a couple of farmers, white farmers, who've been killed. That is not genocide. And Trump had videos ready that were being handed to him by Vice President J.D. Vance with other notables in the room. And he was demanding that the South Africans stop their genocide. And Ramaphosa, you could see, was shocked that the President of the United States would even talk at that level, particularly given what he's doing in Gaza as he plans for Trump Plaza, Club Med. That's an insight into the mentality of not only the man, but the entire administration of Donald Trump. That's what we're dealing with. You know, I was born in China. right at the time of the Communist Revolution. My parents told me a story that when they got to that area before the revolution, the peasants owed between 200 and 300 years of back taxes to the landlords, who had such complete control over the peasants that they could come in at any time and take anything they wanted. If they saw a wife or they saw a daughter, she was compelled to go to his bed that night. No questions asked. When the revolution came, the peasants went to the landlords and in many cases ripped them apart limb by limb. That's not genocide. That is vengeance. That is retribution. And for the president not to understand that after what the whites in South Africa did to the black people, it is inevitable, even with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, that there would be the passion of vengeance in isolated areas. And the fact that there was only a couple killed is actually a testament to the patience and the mercy and the capacity to forgive on the part of the black population of South Africa. And it's important for us to understand this. Chaos reigns, my friend, and the center does not hold. It's time that we hold hands. It's time, as we're trying to do through the State of the World Forum in December, to connect the dots, to try to assemble a meaning framework of the different data points that are happening in our world. Because if we can simply hold in our awareness the contradictions, we will have some capacity to know how to navigate through the accelerating chaos as it unfolds right before our eyes, affecting all of us in unexpected but in inexorable ways. That's our challenge. And particularly for people of the light, that's our mission, to continue, as I've tried to do today, to simply take a stand and call evil what it is. Evil. And then do whatever we can to bring light into that darkness. And that's why we continue with Humanity Rising. So thank you, everyone, for your patience with me today. I feel so deeply about these issues, particularly the suffering of the Gazans, those poor Palestinians that are being starved and bombarded 24/7, now for 600 continuous days. Let us hold them in our hearts. That'll bring our session to a close. I'll be happy to join the after chat. For those of you who would like to deepen this conversation for a little bit, you'll see the link for the after chat in the chat.
Well, beloveds, holy smoke. I don't have anything to say about that because it stirred me every which way and loose. And I'm just going to go on to gallery view for a moment just to see who's here. And I don't know if we should have a chat about it because I'm sure we've all been stirred in different ways. But what I would like to, if you do have something you'd really like to say, raise your hand, please. But just from my perspective, there are no sides. We're just watching and witnessing. And if we join sides, then we've already lost the game. And so what I'd like to do is Desiree has offered us a little prayer, and then I'd like to play a song, and then Diara will take us on a little meditation, and then we can decide. We have it. Hopefully, Alan Steinfeld will join us from the Contact in the Desert event that's happening right now. He's just checking into his room, but apparently he's sharing his room with JJ and Desiree Hurtak, so we may see the threesome. But right now I'm going to spotlight Desiree, and she'll lead us in a prayer, and then I'll take us into a song, and then we'll have a little bit of a centering with Diara, and then we shall continue because we continue. We have faith and we love, and that is all that matters. Well, it's not all that matters, but it's a lot that matters. So how do I do this? All right, so we go here. Oh, come on.
I just want to say thank you as you set that up. It was a very heavy message at times, but at the end, Jim Garrison did mention that we need to bring light into the darkness. So I'd like to do a little bit of that now. If you'd like to join me, we're going to bring in some light language. So go ahead and take a nice big breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. We're going to connect our heart centers. We're going to start by grounding off some of that heaviness. Notice that counterclockwise swirl. We're just grounding that energy, transmuting that energy. We do have the knowledge of what was said. We can use that knowledge to help further growth, bringing in the light, they say. Yes, very good. So another big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let's see how much light energy we can bring in. So I'm just asking, may we please bring light to those people in need at this time? May we please bring light to those situations that need the light at this time? May we please bring light to the areas, the environments, the cities, the countries, the trees, the animals, all the surroundings that need light at this time. I'm asking that we join hands, we join energies, and we raise that energy. We raise that energy and we bring light energy to all those areas for the highest good. We bring in forgiveness where forgiveness needs to be. We realize that those individuals in front of us are human just like we are. We see in them the beauty that we can see within ourselves. We work on ourselves to grow that beauty that we see so we can see that within other people. I'm asking that we clear
as far as we know,
so that we can see more clearly that which is in divine and other people. I'm asking that we raise that vibration, bringing in those spirit guides, ancestors, energies to help those frequencies. I'm literally seeing the love frequency right in front of my eyes. I love it, love it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. So I'm just asking that we spread that love not only throughout ourselves, but throughout the areas that we touch, the other people that we touch, the things that we think about, that we talk love, we speak love into it. We share the love with other individuals as well. We find the love. We bring in the peace. Thank you. Seeing a lot of peace being brought in now. seeing flowers opening up and growing as well. I love seeing that. Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of growth, so much it was almost pulling me off balance. Very nice. We are the light. We are the love. And I thank you for sharing that with all those around you. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. That rocked. It's quite a challenge for me to view what is happening in the world and actually remain neutral. However, that is the mastery. I don't want to make anything less of it, because what is going down is absolutely abominable. And however, we are here to bring that which is real back into the light. And I'm going back into our focus, should I say. And I'll play the song now. Thank you so much, Desiree. And let's dance a little bit. All right. 'Cause now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The smell is wearing off, and so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. Love is reaching through the hearts of me and you. Our world is waking up to our different points of view. 'Cause now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The spell is wearing off, and so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. So shake yourself free of the past. No longer do I walk in the dark. Let's show each other what we can do, and let our light shine right on through. And let the good of humanity stay, and let the dross simply fade away. And let the mother return to us all, so that Jerry can have his way. 'Cause now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The spell is wearing off, and so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized.
Well, that did it. Thank you, Jerry. I hope you heard the lyric I put in for you right there. And thank you, Diara, for looking after things behind the scene. And where are you, sweetheart? I have to find you.
May I just add, that was absolutely beautiful. I saw just, the hold that on mankind. I saw that being lifted. I saw the divine feminine coming in and raising mankind. It was absolutely beautiful. I saw just the compassion, the empathy that comes with that divine feminine, that not only males and females, but all of us have that divine feminine within us. And then I saw, which was just made me want to cry. I literally see in my hand a wish, and it was like so far away. But then I see that wish being brought and our hearts opening up. So I just want to say thank you. That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. It takes a village, and here is the village right here. Thank you, Desiree, and thank me for being such an awesome songwriter. And actually, no, I just channel. I lay no claim to any ownership of any of it. And Diara, please lead us on a little meditative journey, and then we shall. I haven't heard from Alan, or
Scott,
then we can
Scott
go on.
is here.
Oh, he
Scott
is?
here, actually.
Whoa, dude, where are you, man? Hang on a minute.
I am, for the first time in many years,
There you
I am inside a McDonald's restaurant.
Oh yeah, right. First time in a year, sure, man.
Really, I mean, Pollo Loco. I do Pollo Loco, but I don't normally do McDonald's.
Oh, well,
But, yeah,
that's awesome. I know. Scott and I have been texting. He's been driving around trying to find someone with internet. So we finished the Jim Garrison, and yes, it was definitely stirring for us all. And
yeah,
Ray has just led us on a beautiful prayer, and Diara is just going to lead us in a short meditation
perfect.
before we go into Danny Sheehan's video. And I know we haven't heard
Okay.
from Alan yet. Good to see you,
Yeah,
brother.
absolutely. And a couple things, just real quickly. It does look like we'll be able to hear from Alan Steinfeld and hopefully JJ and Desiree towards the end of the show. Also, I know that Andrew is with us. Has he shared yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so that's something that we'll do at some point tonight as well.
Well, we can
But
do it when we advertise for the Saturday show. And whilst we're here, I don't know if I guess Bonnie and Roger are not with us yet.
they said they were going out to birthday dinner, but they were going to come back in time
Because
to
it's
be part of
Bonnie's
the
birthday.
show.
She's sweet 35, so that's pretty cool. And
Exactly.
all right, so I'm going to take us off and leave Diara on, and she can lead us in a short meditation, and then we'll join back and then go into the Danny Sheehan video. So thank you, Diara.
So welcome, 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 welcome. Oh, beloveds, take a deep breath in and continuing the beautiful trail that Desiree has opened for us, allowing our bodies to receive this healing energy now. Absorbing all that came from what we heard, what we saw, what we pictured in our minds, what we know in our hearts, and allowing anything other than pure peace to enter our bodies, breathing out everything other than that now. And using our collective joy that we have in this room to amplify that light. And so again, breathing in and finding the joy and the love, allowing the central nervous system to absorb that. Omashar's beautiful song that gives us hope. And we're so blessed in this community that we can move from the heavy truth into the lighter realms, and moving in a moment, as we will, into the celestial divinity For we are the ones that are the bridges of heaven and earth. And so with that, I'll say aho, and so it is.
Thank you, Tiara.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tiara.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, beloveds, we have a choice now. We can watch Scott eating McDonald's fries, or we can go into Danny Sheehan's video. And
I do have McDonald's fries. Here they are. So
you know what? If I was there, I would too, because unfortunately or fortunately, I do love fries.
they're
And
good.
yeah. So the thing is, no matter what it is, if you love it when you put it into your body, it's love.
Let me introduce the Deanna video, and thank you very much, Omar Sharp, for queuing it up. So this was filmed a couple of weeks ago at the Sunrise Center, and my buddy Simon and I filmed it. And again, Danny is extraordinary. I mean, this guy probably knows as much as anybody who can speak publicly about what's really going on with UFOs, UAPs, government disclosure. So he is, of course, representing the government whistleblowers that are coming out and talking about what's really happening. He's testifying before Congress. He was close to Pope Francis, and he's been in this field for 40 years. Jimmy Carter, when he was president, had Danny Sheehan, who he went to try and get information about what was going on with UFOs. He goes back that far. So here's the latest from Danny, who is a true American hero, right alongside Omar Shar, who is our true hero for pulling everything off when my internet stopped at 5 minutes till 6 p.m. We love Omar Shar. And it's his last night with us for like 3 weeks because he's going to visit his mom. So we definitely going to want to do a prayer for Omar Shar travel and his mom as well.
Yes, I'm going to go and visit Mummy, and we'll see. I'm going to do some pruning to the apple tree, which hasn't been pruned for 5 years. So you can imagine me up an apple tree chopping and getting grounded because I really need some grounding right now. So I'm going to bring on the Danny Sheehan video now, and I think it runs for about 25 minutes or something. So we shall see you on the other side, beautiful ones.
Okay, let me just make sure your light's on. It's still on. Okay. There you are.
This is the green room.
Here we go. Great. Terrific, you guys. Thank you for coming out. I wanted to get a chance to chat with you and a number of the different people that is being live streamed out into, is being zoomed to a handful of different organizations. But you're the in-house group of people to whom I'll be speaking directly. And I wanted to just give you an idea of what the issue is that we're dealing with here. You see that there's a focus here on the environmental threat that's going on. And there was a tangential reference also to the thermonuclear war threat that we're faced with right now. We all know that Russia is involved in the process right now of still continuing to bomb the Ukraine. That the Netanyahu government, which is opposed by a substantial percentage of their people in Israel, are bombing Gaza still. And there's now the Pakistan and India are confronting each other, both with nuclear weapons. These kind of threats, self-imposed by our own human family on ourselves, has been consistently confronting us with the threat of sort of major global potential catastrophes. And at the same time, there is this phenomenon going on right now that you've probably heard about, that sort of all of a sudden there's been a whole lot of activity going on in Washington, D.C. about the UFO issue, that there are people coming forward from deep inside the Pentagon and inside the intelligence community of our country and testifying to the Senate Intelligence Committee behind closed doors and to a lesser extent testifying in public now over on the House side in front of the House Oversight Committee. And so I had been asked to come to the Conscious Living Expo here this past weekend to give everyone an update there on this particular issue. There's a handful of people who were there. But what I want to do is I want to, for our group and for the people that are now on the live streaming, because that event was not live streamed, so that we want to be able to share with a much larger audience now the basic information that we were able to convey to just 100 people or so at that Conscious Living Expo. And so they asked me at that point to talk about the secret behind the scenes. Our organization, the Romero Institute, which is the 501c3 base for the New Paradigm Institute, dates all the way back to 1980 in Washington, D.C., when we founded the Christic Institute. That was a marriage, if you will, between the Jesuit National Headquarters, where I was general counsel, to the National Social Ministry Office, which is their public policy office, and the National Organization for Women, where Sarah was the National Labor Secretary there under Karen DeCrow and Eleanor Smeal. And we came together back then to do the Karen Silkwood case that many of you may remember, where the young woman who was helping to organize a chapter of the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Union at the only nuclear spent fuel reprocessing plant in the world. And she discovered that they were missing 40 pounds of 98% pure bomb-grade plutonium. And she called the National Office of the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers and told them that she had discovered this and was complaining about how sloppy the facility must be to be missing 40 pounds of 98% pure bomb-grade plutonium. Well, the New York Times people were contacted immediately because the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers realized that you don't just go missing 40 pounds of this, maybe ounces, but not pounds. And so they decided they were going to send the New York Times reporter out to Oklahoma to interview her, and she was killed on the way to the meeting with him. And the documents were removed from the car. We got called in to do the investigation of her death and ended up winning a $10.5 million judgment against the Kerr-McGee Nuclear Corporation, ended up shutting down that facility, and ended up getting a series of court rulings that stopped the construction of private nuclear power plants in the United States all the way from 1979 up until the present. And so that we were asked to stay together after bringing together that kind of ad hoc team of people to do other cases. And we went immediately to 3 Mile Island. We were called into 3 Mile Island, where we did the litigation that stopped them from pumping the radioactive effluents that had escaped into the water, the cooling system of the 3 Mile Island facility, because of a partial meltdown in their core. And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission had already authorized them to pump all that water into the Susquehanna River. And we went in and stopped that, proving that there had been a meltdown and there were radioactive nuclides in the water. And that stopped what they estimate at probably 50,000 cases of cancer over the next decades. So we stopped that from happening and stopped that plant and had to just unload the fuel from that plant. And we kept on doing one case after another where we were disclosing the secrets. The secret of the death of Karen Silkwood, the secret of the fact that they were smuggling 98% pure bomb-grade plutonium out of that facility to bring nuclear materials to the state of Israel and to Iran for the construction of nuclear weapons. We then revealed the fact that there was actually a meltdown in the plant at 3 Mile Island. We went on case after case to to do the major federal civil rights lawsuit against the Ku Klux Klan and the American Nazi Party down in Greensboro, North Carolina, which revealed the fact that they were in conspiracy with the police department there to allow the Klan and Nazis to come in and gun down labor organizers there in North Carolina at the textile mills. We've been doing these cases year after year. And in the context of doing these cases that I earlier had done the Pentagon Papers case for the New York Times, where we got to publish the 47 volumes of the top secret memos inside the Pentagon and inside the Defense Department and intelligence agencies, revealing the deep secrets of the Vietnam War, revealing that it was an illegal war, that they had lied about the Bay of Tonkin attack allegedly on neutral U.S. ships that just happened to be in the neighborhood, which were actually shelling the shorelines of North Vietnam. But we had been doing a number of these things, and because of that, we ended up being contacted. I had been contacted earlier when President Carter was elected back in November of 1976. And because he had seen a UFO when he was governor of Georgia, one of the very first things that he did after being elected on November 2nd of 1976, he sent immediately for the head of the Central Intelligence Agency to come down to Plains, Georgia, and brief him on the UFO phenomenon. He wanted to know immediately what information we had about the UFO phenomenon and any potential extraterrestrial life form that was responsible for the UFO phenomenon. And in that case, the head of the CIA refused to give him the information, saying that as the elected president, he had no need to know that information. And it turns out that that particular CIA director was George H.W. Bush, who was the head of the Central Intelligence Agency at that time and went on to become the vice president of the United States under Ronald Reagan and then the president. And throughout that period, I was involved because I was contacted by the Library of Congress, the Congressional Research Service, at the request of President Carter to undertake with them a major study of all the documentation that existed inside the government about the UFO phenomenon and about the extraterrestrial intelligence, to be able to provide this information to the new president, President Carter. And it was in that context that I was given access to the classified portion of Project Blue Book, which was a top secret investigation conducted by the United States Air Force into the UFO phenomenon, which was later transformed into basically a major cover-up, where they basically told the whole world, once they discovered that there was such an investigation, that there was no there, that there was no indication of any kind that that UFOs were real, that the overwhelming majority of these were just mistaken natural phenomenon of one sort or another. And they lied consciously about the program. And it became clear for those of us who were given access to the classified portion of Project Blue Book that they'd been consciously lying, not only to the American public, but to the Congress of the United States, that there was in fact a clandestine operation going on inside the new Central Intelligence Agency and the Defense Department, military services, to actually explore and try to get possession of one or more UFOs, and that we discovered in the classified documents eventually that the events that took place in 1947 at Roswell, New Mexico, turns out to have been true, that this was actually a crashed UFO vehicle that had been recovered by our United States government, and a complete fabrication had been generated by the Defense Department and the CIA to lie to everyone, to pretend that this was a weather balloon that had crashed, and that the people that were at the only nuclear bomb center in the whole world, that had been the center for the Enola Gay, where they launched the Enola Gay that detonated the bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki in in August of 1945. This was their military base. And it turns out that a UFO had crashed in the immediate vicinity of that and had been recovered. They immediately shipped the wreckage to Wright Field in Ohio and began a secret program trying to back engineer the technology so they could actually develop a whole new generation of weapons using this technology. We began to uncover this over time. I ended up later being contacted by Dr. John Mack, that many of you may know. That was John there. That was his set of interviews of the young children in Africa at the school where a UFO landed on their playground, and basically communicated telepathically to the children. There were like 60 children there, and they all got the exact same message from these beings that came out of the craft, about our having to stop polluting our atmosphere with pollutants, and particularly the petroleum, and that it was going to lead to the devastation of our ecological system. So that when John published a book about this and was dragged up in front of a faculty committee at Harvard University, challenging his tenure, basically, for having undertaken such an irresponsible communication to the world about the reality of the UFO phenomenon and the extraterrestrial presence here. He contacted me, and I represented him legally in front of this particular panel. I was given the privilege of being involved in organizing the witnesses for us to present before this faculty committee at Harvard. And therefore, I got to meet virtually all of the major players in the entire UFO field. I got to meet Bud Hopkins. I got to meet Stanton Friedman. I got to meet, Dr. Stephen Greer. I got to meet, Linda Moulton Howe. I got to meet virtually all of the people that were involved in doing investigations. And that's how I began to become deeply involved in this whole program. So as we were through the Christic Institute originally, engaging in such litigations as the Iran-Contra case, for example, where we caught the CIA and the Defense Department smuggling weapons to the Contras in complete violation of the Boland Amendment that had been passed by the United States Congress, prohibiting them from doing that. That we're the ones that did the major investigation of them. We brought criminal charges against them under the Federal Criminal Racketeering Act. We brought the civil case down in Florida that ended up generating the appointment of the special prosecutor, Lawrence Walsh, and the major hearings in front of the Congress. So this has been our history down through the years in doing these kind of investigations to uncover these secrets. What I was asked to do at the Conscious Living Expo was to lay out kind of a several part presentation on this issue to try to bring people up to date, some of the people that were more familiar with some of these details, but many other people who are not, that are just hearing about sort of at a distance what's going on in Washington, that all of a sudden there's this whole spate of hearings going on and articles appearing in newspapers and stuff, and a lot of podcasts now interviewing people that are deep within the national security state, revealing this information. And so what I had done, what I want to do just briefly here this evening, primarily for the advantage of the people that are on the streaming, live streaming and the Zooms here now, give a bunch of information, and the people here can ask questions about it so that people can see what the normal kind of questions are that people would want to know about in light of the information. So what I want to do is I want to cover first, dealing with, what is the secret about the UFO phenomenon in this extraterrestrial civilization that is represented by these UFOs. And secondly, what are the steps that have been taken by our United States government in response to this reality? Why has there, after 80 years of lying and suppressing this information, why has there been this kind of sudden event taking place now coming forward and starting to talk about this after all these years, and what is the present status of this process, to be able to update everybody on what's going on in Washington and around the country on this right now, and what the likely outcome is going to be of this process, this so-called controlled disclosure process that is going on now, and what might be the ultimate impact of the revelation of the reality of the UFO phenomenon. Okay, so what I want to do, just to start out, to point out that because of the unique nature of our institute, which is now the Romero Institute, that is the base for this New Paradigm Institute project that we have, that we have been engaged in these types of investigations, always pursuant to the objective of filings in federal court, in doing depositions and presenting witnesses to juries, in winning major civil judgments, et cetera, to be able to effectuate a given objective in public policy. So we've always been governed by Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, that unlike other people who can kind of speculate fairly casually about, what the reality is, or what's, somebody's mother's uncle told them that they had seen or heard, and then people start to fill in the details with their own worldview of what they would like to have this be. What we're constrained by Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure to confine the representations that we are making publicly, if we intend to file them in any kind of a litigation, to confine ourselves to the facts that we have come to a good faith belief are true, and that we hold a good faith belief that, given access to the civil discovery processes that are available in civil litigation, that we will be able to present court admissible evidence to sustain every essential element of every one of the claims that we make. And so this is a different standard than a lot of the other organizations and groups that come together and speculate about what's really happening here. And so that we are presenting a kind of a standard of reliability that we hope would help stabilize the community in response to all the data. And so that what we have come to believe as of this point is number one, that the UFO phenomenon is real, that this is not just a mistaken natural phenomena, that's not just, searchlights reflecting off clouds. It's not, flocks of birds that have been misidentified, and it's certainly not swamp gas, as some of them have asserted in the past. These are real. These are actual vehicles they're traveling in these extraordinary ways, where they come down from 80,000 feet, which is technically outer space. They come down all the way to the surface of our ocean in 0.7 of 1 second, which is going at over 40,000 miles an hour inside our atmosphere, with no friction, and they stop dead on a dime right at the sea level, generating probably 6,000 Gs of force that would turn any living being inside a normal vehicle into mush at that rate. But then they just go underwater with no splash of any kind, and they go underwater and proceed at over 200 miles an hour under the water. And these are being monitored now. There was an entire aircraft carrier battle group deployed down off Baja, where there was a site between Baja and Guadalupe Island, an exact point of longitude and latitude down to the minute and second, where they've registered over 100 of these UFOs coming and going from this particular spot, and that they suspect that there may well be a major base under the ocean, under the Pacific Ocean, because at that particular site, there's an extraordinarily large mountain range under the sea, which has deep valleys, and that in one of these valleys, there may be a major base that the UFOs have operational. And it's way deeper than any of our submarines can go, and deeper than any of the kind of underwater vehicles can go to try to track. Now, so this reality of the phenomenon is the first of all important things to come to understand, that these are real. These are not imaginary. People who believe that they've seen UFOs functioning like this, going 40,000 miles an hour inside our atmosphere and turning on a direct 90-degree angle, coming out of a turn like that at that kind of speed. That these are real, and the fact is that they are being piloted by a non-human species that is here, and that we have in fact recovered one or more, actually 9 of these vehicles at least. We have them in our possession. They have been able to start looking at the technology of these craft. They've recovered bodies from these craft that they've now tested, and through DNA have shown that they are non-human beings. There are some 6 of these particular species that they have identified. There are the little 3.5 feet tall, large head with large almond eyes and little holes for nose and 3 fingers, the arms that kind of are down a little bit longer than their knees, etc. And then there is a second species, which is almost 6 feet tall, that is just like that. The same kind of large head and large eyes and same appendages, etc. There is, in fact, a reptilian species, a separate species that is, 5.5 to 6 feet tall, humanoid, really quite benign, actually. But of course, reptiles have a particular reputation in our species. People get the kind of willies about reptiles. And so people had been projecting onto these beings kind of a negative press, as it were. But that certain people that we have talked to that have had direct face-to-face encounters with some of these reptilian beings and find them to be extraordinarily benign and very intelligent, extremely smart. And harmless, there's no record of them having done anything bad, the reptilian species. And then there's another species that is like 7 feet tall. They call them the mantis people, and that they're extraordinarily thin and skinny and big and tall and kind of hunched over like this, that people think they look like praying mantises, and they call them the mantis people. And they always seem to be sort of in charge. If people see them in the presence of any of the other species, they seem to be giving direction to the others as to what to do. And then there's this one that is very problematic and quite confusing, that is asserted to be virtually identical to human beings. And this is presumed by many of the reports to be a species that comes from the Pleiades, a particular constellation of 7 stars that you can track from Orion's belt. And you just look off to the right of Orion's belt, and you'll see a constellation of these 7 little stars that are all together. And this is the Pleiades constellation. And a number of people, Billy Myers and others, have asserted that they have had face-to-face encounters with beings that look virtually identical to us. Our institute has taken no position on that, because that puts us into an entirely other octave of reality, of trying to determine what the relationship may be between us as a species and this other group that are reported to be Homo sapien, basically. So we haven't taken any position on this, but we have acknowledged that there are extraterrestrial species that are coming and going here to our planet, and that we, our United States intelligence community and our Defense Department, are in possession of the bodies of a number of these beings that have been tested and have been confirmed to be non-human. And very, very troublingly, there is now overwhelming evidence that has convinced us at the Institute even pursuant to Rule 11, that some number of these species, usually the little short ETs and the big tall grays that they refer to, are engaged in a program of abducting individual human beings, sometimes entire families at a given time, and taking them into custody and subjecting them to major physical examinations, and then wiping their minds so that they don't remember these things, except under later either holotropic breathing exercises or various forms of hypnosis, being able to recall these experiences that they've had. But additionally, there are a series of very credible reports that female human beings, some female human beings, have been subjected to abduction, and the involuntary, though unconscious at the time, removal of female egg cells, and that these egg cells, female egg cells, have been gene spliced together with the genetic material from one of these species, and then re-implanted in the womb of the women, and so that the women then find themselves to be pregnant, even though they've had no relations with the man for ages, and they find themselves to be pregnant, and they confirm that. They go to the doctors and are confirmed that they're pregnant, and they carry the fertilized zygote through the entire first trimester, and then they're abducted again. And that they end up, after being abducted again, discovering that they're no longer pregnant. And so that there's a very clear pattern of information and evidence indicating that the fertilized zygote of the young baby is being removed and brought to term ex utero. And so that there is a program of hybridization going on. And so that there are hundreds of reports of this happening. And so that this is a set of factual information that our institute, based on all of our years, 50 years of doing professional investigations, have, to our satisfaction, confirmed to be going on. Okay, so the question arises, and also that one of the other pieces of information is that there are hundreds and hundreds of completely credible reports that the people who are being abducted and subjected to these physical examinations, are having telepathic communication with these extraterrestrial beings. And the extraterrestrial beings are trying to convince the people that we have to take measures as a species to stop the development and distribution and deployment of thermonuclear weapons on our planet, because this could actually terminate our entire species, that we could terminate ourselves. And in addition, we can terminate thousands and thousands of other species on our planet. Indeed, virtually all other living forms on our planet. And we could so contaminate the gene pool of the tiny minority of living things that survive a total thermonuclear exchange, that the genetic material would be so mutated that it would be useless in trying to regenerate a new life form on our planet. And that we have come at the New Paradigm Institute to sort of the operational thesis that what's happening here is that these extraterrestrial species are finding the genetic material on our planet, the various flora and fauna on our planet, to be an extraordinarily valuable resource for our galaxy, because the Earth and a comparatively limited number of other planets are capable of actually gestating life. That out of the hundreds of billions, indeed trillions of planets now that we are aware of now in our galaxy alone, that it's a comparatively rare thing to find a planet that is gestating life. And for that reason, these extraterrestrial species are extraordinarily concerned about the fact that we, in our development as the Homo sapiens species, have come up with this technology of thermonuclear weapons that can potentially terminate the development of life on our planet. And so that this message has been repeated over and over and over again. And when I was contacted by Dr. John Mack, when he was called up in front of this Harvard faculty committee and challenged for publishing a book about these encounters that people had had, that he turns out to be the fellow to whom the United States military was ordering officers who insisted upon filing reports about UFO encounters. The first thing that would happen is they'd be ordered to go get a psychiatric exam, which was a way of deterring any of the officers from filing these official reports. But those who insisted upon pushing through with the process and filing such official complaints, you know, like Arnie Aronson, for example, who was the commander at Maelstrom, the Maelstrom nuclear missile base up in Montana back in 1967, you know, when a UFO came over the Minuteman site and shut down all 10 of the individually wired Minuteman missiles, nuclear tipped missiles, and shut them all off. And Arnie Arnoldson insisted upon filing a report to NORAD about this and was ordered to get a psychiatric exam. And it turns out that they would send these people, some of them, to Harvard Medical School in Boston to have a psychiatric exam. And John Mack was the chairman of the Department of Clinical Psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. And so these people would come to him, and he would put them through the entire battery of tests on their psychological stability. And he said that, you know, after one after another, he found them to be within the normal parameters of psychological normalcy, yet they were all insisting upon these stories about the encounters that they had seen. And so John ended up deciding that, he said, this is either true that it's happening to them, or this is some really strange new psychological ailment that people have. And so he wrote an article that he submitted to the New England Journal of Medicine, the #1 peer-reviewed medical journal in the country. Now, he had written dozens of articles for peer-reviewed articles, and in fact was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. That he won the Pulitzer Prize for publishing the definitive psychobiography of T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. And so he submitted this to them, and they sent it back to him and saying they weren't going to publish it. And so he said, well, I'll put some more footnotes in it. I'll do some more references. I'll make it much more technical and scientific. And he resubmitted it to them. And within 2 days, the executive secretary for Relman, Dr. Relman, who was the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, his executive secretary came to John's office and brought the envelope back and said that Dr. Relman wanted me to tell you that it's not been opened. We're not only not going to publish it, we're not even going to open it, and we're not going to read it. I mean, that's how things were back in 1994. And so John got upset, and he went to a publisher and got it published. And that's why he was dragged in front of this faculty committee at Harvard. And then he called me and asked me to legally represent him in front of the committee. And that's how I ended up having the privilege, as I pointed out earlier, of getting to go and interview all of these different people. And I became legal counsel for a thing he put together called the Project for Extraordinary Experience Research. And in that context, I got to interview dozens and dozens of people who had extraordinarily credible stories about having gone through this abduction experience and had these direct face-to-face encounters with these beings. And so I was able to, as an attorney, to be able to interview these various people, testing them for veracity, trying to determine whether any of them were credible enough to present to a jury that I would stand up and confirm my belief in their testimony. And so I was able to vet a number of these people to be prepared to present these people to Harvard University. And because of that activity, I was later contacted by Dr. Stephen Greer. And Dr. Greer put together a thing called the Disclosure Project, and he interviewed literally hundreds of people who had claimed to have had this kind of experience. And he brought me on to vet these people, to interview them and to test their veracity and to decide 24 people that we would present to the members of Congress, which we did in May of 2001 at the National Press Club. We actually presented 24 major witnesses, a lot of them from major U.S. government organizations, including a chief investigator for the Federal Aviation Agency, who testified at length about having radar readings of UFOs following major commercial craft around, and then having CIA people show up at his office in the Federal Aviation Agency and order him to turn over the copies of the radar readings so that they wouldn't have any more, but he made a copy of them and made them available to us at the Disclosure Project. So I served as legal counsel for the Disclosure Project with Dr. Stephen Greer for 20 years. Okay, and I was then contacted by Luis Elizondo, who was the director of the top secret program inside the Pentagon, who in 2007 was brought on to be the chief of security for an advanced weapons special access program inside the Pentagon, investigating the UFO technology and its potentials for being developed as a new weapons system for our U.S. military. And he was so taken aback by his discovery of what was really going on, of them engaging in this project of trying to gather together UFOs and back engineer them, that he ended up founding a thing called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program inside the Pentagon. And he ended up feeling compelled, along with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Christopher Mellon, to come forward to the New York Times and provide the famous videos now, the so-called Tic Tac videos that you probably have seen. These are our F-18 Super Hornet gun camera videos of UFOs, right, up close, and you can see them functioning, and brought them to the New York Times. And I was struck by the fact that the New York Times Board of Editors checked these things out and made the decision to publish these things. And so that particular set of events on December 17th of 2017 actually began this kind of latest period of looking into the UFO phenomena. It's kind of ebbed and flowed down over the decades since the events that took place at Roswell, basically in July of 1947. You had a number of sightings in 1954. You had all kinds of rumors going around in 1954 that President Eisenhower had disappeared for like a 12-hour period on a trip into the Midwest, and had actually gone to a military base and had a direct face-to-face encounter with representatives of a UFO. And these other things had happened down through the years, but there had been a successful suppression of any official confirmation of this reality until 2017, on December 17th, when Lou Elizondo, the head of the top secret program, and Chris Mellon, the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, came forward and publicly revealed the existence of this secret program. And that's the snowball that's been rolling here now, that you've been hearing more and more about. And David Grush came before the House Oversight Committee in July of 2023 and testified under oath that we were in possession of one or more extraterrestrial, non-human origin spacecraft, and that we were in possession of bodies of the pilots and occupants of these craft that had been demonstrated and proven to be non-human. And he testified in under oath in front of Congress. And very importantly, we realized that he had been authorized by the Defense Department to admit that. And so this was an extraordinarily important step here that's been taken, that the United States Defense Department Office of Pre-Publication Security Review had actually authorized him to testify publicly, to reveal to the world that we were in possession of non-human origin extraterrestrial spacecraft and bodies of the occupants that were non-human. So that moment, July 16th of 2023, was an extraordinarily important moment in our history, because the very next day, on the 17th of July of 2023, the United States Senate Intelligence Committee unanimously passed a 64-page bill called the UFO Controlled Disclosure Act, in which they passed into law out of the Senate side the mandate that the President of the United States appoint a 9-person panel to review every single document that existed inside our United States government pertaining to UFOs and the extraterrestrial intelligence. And that bill ordered all 6 of our United States military services, all 18 of our United States intelligence agencies, and all 32 of our United States Defense Department agencies, and all of the private aerospace corporations that may have been put into possession of any of these materials to try to examine them on behalf of the United States government. They were ordered to gather all of that information together and turn it over to the United States National Archives. Now that was an extraordinarily important moment that happened in 2023, and it went over to the House side, and it turns out that the person who was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, a fellow named Michael Turner, from the 10th Congressional District in Ohio, which turned out to be the home base for the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is where the craft was taken from Roswell and put there. And that's where it was one of the centers from which they've been trying to back engineer this stuff. And so he ended up being sent basically by the Aerospace Corporation to keep this secret. And he stuck his thumb in this thing to stop the bill from getting passed. But we passed 23 pages of it, of the 64, and we got an order commanding all of those agencies to gather together all the information about UFOs and the ET experience, everything that they've ever come into possession of since January 1st of 1945. And so that's the present state of the law. That was passed. That 23 pages of the 64-page bill have been passed, and they are now under orders to gather all of this together and stand by to turn it over to the National Archives as of October of this year. Okay? So the reason that I wanted to come and talk with you tonight, and to the other folks that are listening here, is to know that that's happening right now. That these military services and intelligence agencies and Defense Department agencies are under active orders from the United States Congress at the present moment to turn over this information to the National Archives this coming October. Okay, and so that you ought to mark that in your calendar because they're going to fight back and resist this. And what we have to do is we have to mobilize our people around the country to write to their individual members of the House of Representatives and write to their United States senators and demand that they do this. And very importantly, the Senate has now agreed, Michael Rounds, the Republican senator from South Dakota, and Chuck Schumer, the former majority leader of the United States Senate from New York, they have agreed to co-sponsor and repass the 64-page bill, which in addition to those other things that has now already been accomplished, is to mandate that the president appoint this 9-person board and that the board review all of that documentation and everything that we have in our possession, and that they publicly release everything that's 25 years old or more, which means all the way back to Roswell, back in 1947, go all the way back to the most famous instance, Betty and Barney Hill, in 1961. All of these major events that have taken place in the past, that the United States Senate, now led by the Republican Party, are going to insist that that be done. Okay, so that all of these dynamics are going on right now, and that we wanted to come out and share with you the fact that this process is actually underway right now, and that most people don't know anything about it. A handful of us even here have been following some of it, and you're familiar with some of it, but the House Oversight Committee has now officially set up a task force of 11 members of the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives to constitute a task force on the declassification of all of the secret information about UFOs. Okay, and that task force is headed up by Congressman or Congresswoman Luna from Florida, and they're in the process of preparing to have a public hearing in the near future all about this. And so the question that we wanted to raise here is, what is the reason why they're fighting back so hard? Why are they concealing this information? And what are we going to do to get them to reveal it? And what are the implications going to be when this information is revealed? And that's what I wanted to talk about here in sort of the first portion of our gathering here this evening, and then I can answer a lot of questions about it. But the bottom line is that what I want to do here is I want to talk about what the implications are going to be, because if in fact this information that I've just outlined in general about the reality that we at the New Paradigm Institute are willing to confirm, and that we're going to be sharing the information with people all around the country in all 435 congressional districts. Our New Paradigm Institute has a project that is called Citizens for Disclosure. We're going to be asking you this evening to sign up, and all the people that are listening in the live streaming and the Zooms that are listening to go to this little dealie, whatever the QR code they call them now, and you can sign up. It'll take you right straight to the website of the New Paradigm Institute, and you can sign up to become a member of Citizens for Disclosure. And it will put you in touch with the other people that are in your congressional district who have signed up to be Citizens for Disclosure. There'll be people that are kind of the coordinators for each congressional district to help get everybody to communicate with each other. And we'll be sending you information, every week, a packet of information about updating you on where the developments are and answering questions that people have about the substance of what is the evidence to support each of these major postulates that we've set forth. Okay, so this will prepare you to engage with your other fellow members in your congressional district. And also we will assist you in preparing letters to send to your individual congressperson or senators, and it'll be crafted for your own particular district, because there are people here more than just up here in Marin County, or even in California. There'll be people all across the country that'll be listening to this tonight. And we want them, for example, the new head of the Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives, Dan Crenshaw, is from the 2nd District in Texas, the 2nd Congressional District, just outside of the northern suburb.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to come on in because that's kind of the conclusion of this part. And Alan Steinfeld is here, along with the Hurtaks. So we're going to go to them in a moment. But I do want to encourage everybody to go to the newparadigminstitute.org, newparadigminstitute.org, and donate. I'd really appreciate if you can do that. And also definitely join what he was just talking about, the Citizens for Disclosure movement. We can get all the information. Definitely get on their mailing list. Danny sends out a newsletter about every 1 or 2 times a week. And they're always filled with like the latest breakthroughs, the latest information. But the other place to always get the latest information is Mr. Making Contact himself. There he is, Alan Steinfeld with JJ and Desiree Hurtak.
Live from Contact in the Desert here in where are we? And outside of Palm Springs, basically.
Indian Hills.
Indian Wells.
Yes, Indian Wells, and it's going to be an amazing weekend. I'll try to report into you, Scott, and line some people up. We are ready to add remote viewing and making contact to this whole weekend. I would say fanfare. How's that? But getting back, I just want to comment on what Danny said. Yes, there's progress being made in Congress. More of the congressional leaders are saying, "What? Wait, something's really going on," and Luna is on top of it. But it's really a citizens movement. That's why I love this gathering here in the desert every year for the last, I guess, 11 years. This is where the community comes together. This is where we network. This is where we build a citizen movement, where I think Garrison is really focused on. What do you have to say?
This is a People's Congress. Each of us is a citizen diplomat with the rights and privileges of those in Congress to bring forth their information, to build what I will call a sociology of experience, without which we're just talking philosophical notions. So the whole idea of remote viewing, remote sensing, and what I will call the paraphysical dimensions that have been overlooked for more than some 50 years, we illustrate as important milestones in showing the missing part of the information download.
Right. And Alan mentioned Representative Luna. She's from the area of Clearwater, Florida. And if you listen to her November 13, 2024, House of Representatives hearing her questions, Alan was right there, but she asked questions like, where's the hot spots of, UFOs taking place off of the US? And then she also asked, are they multidimensional?
Yeah.
Is there something regarding like connecting the mind?
But the most important thing that she mentioned is this, the spiritual experience of anything to do with the entities that seem to disappear or become invisible in the conversation. So there's obviously an understanding of meta language. We will call this higher levels of consciousness / spiritual insight that need to be shared, which I think can open a middle ground of conversation.
Which is one of the trends this Contact in the Desert is gearing itself towards, the idea of consciousness. There's actually a psionics panel. Diana Hennessy Powell is here, the woman behind the telepathy tapes, the genius behind the telepathy tapes. And I'm going to be lecturing on the quantum mind and non-human intelligence. So there's this gearing up towards this expansion of what we call consciousness. And of course, I just want to tell you my favorite line by John Mack. He says, UFOs are like an outreach program from the universe for the consciously impaired. And that's us here on this planet. We need to wake up to the multiplicity of what consciousness is so we can be on an even playing field with these beings. They are advancing their consciousness, but they're not greater than us. They've just had more access to it. They haven't been shut down in the ability to think great thoughts. So we are at a threshold of a consciousness awakening where we'll meet the others.
Yes, and to Scott and all of who are attending the conference, we will show documentation that we are multidimensional beings. We are waking up in a vast and awesome universe with tremendous abilities and privileges that sharing information with positive thinking will build this greater sociology that we need as citizens of the future.
Right. And what's also exciting, we're going to be doing a workshop with Alan on remote viewing because we've written books and he's written books. And, you wonder where remote viewing really comes in on this type of topic. But then you enter Lou Elizondo, who studied remote viewing and realized that this is the energy and the technology and the communication of extraterrestrials as well.
Well, I'll tell you where it really comes in. Consciousness is not local, so it's not specific to humans. What we have access to is the infinite field. So basically, we are aliens here or beyond aliens. We're all working in the same medium of awareness, consciousness, the observer, the quantum mind, whatever you want to call it. We are equal to these beings. We are part of this great cosmos that gave birth to this consciousness that we all possess, no matter where you are.
In fact, I always argue with Alan because Mullen Howe is now coming up with the idea that they recognize that we have a higher soul, in some cases higher than some of these alien intelligences. And you may remember an old friend of ours, Virgil Armstrong, we called him Posty. He wrote a book, They Need Us, We Don't Need Them. Well, of course, we don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly, because many of these aliens are trying to help us to put away our weapons of war, to get rid of the nuclear, ... But there's others that actually are jealous of us because we have a higher consciousness, an ability to go beyond the local realms. And that's what we're going to be introducing here actually as well at the conference.
So remote viewing has to do with this consciousness, but there's an interesting interface Desiree just mentioned between the soul, consciousness, humans, non-humans. We are at a point in history, and I think that's where all the news, everything Danny's doing, Jim Garrison, is we are about to have a huge soul growth. As we expand into the greater realities, we expand our capacity to feel, to know, to love, to be a part of a greater cosmos.
So this is the quantum change that comes with the quantum mind.
Right.
This is the putting on of what I call a spiritual horizon, a new ontology of being, a new understanding of how the human heart works, regardless of culture, regardless of tradition. We are subjects of a whole new change that is coming.
So it's very exciting times. I'm really happy we're here at Contact in the Desert to meet people like Ross Coulthard, really one of the leading journalists in the field. Who else is going to be there? Well, Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, all the regular.
I've got a question. I've got a question for the Hurtaks. This is from Ayada, who's in our audience. And she had come across some of their writings, and I'll just read her question. She says, I have been going through the publications from JJ and Desiree, which I got at Tangila's Soul Search Fair. Because they've written so extensively about the future of humanity and our evolution, it occurred to me that they probably have valuable insights as to how we can respond to these chaotic and disturbing times that we're living through, particularly in view of the alarming behavior of the current administration and the incredible polarization between people. So, JJ, Desiree, what do you have to say to that?
I'll start. And, the thing is, we're still optimistic. And the reason being is because there is a higher energy. Not only we consider it a divine energy, but there's also even extraterrestrials that are positively trying to help us, maybe even giving us information. I believe we can solve. We even have the technology, or at least the information for the technology, to solve every problem we have on this planet. We just have to be the ones to implement it.
Humanity has to be nourished by positive thinking, positive thoughts, what we call the combination of light, love, and compassion. And really, this is the bottom line in our engagement with the cosmic others, that as we bring forth the greater powers of the mind to overcome frustration, separation, isolation, begin to work with the collective consciousness that the great master teachers down through the ages have talked about, and even Carl Gustav Jung, the great Swiss psychologist, illustrated. I believe this is an important and a wise step that we must take in terms of the upper spiral, because there's so much propaganda of the lower spiral. We have to make a decision, no matter what the situation is, to be positive at all times.
Now, with that said, when I was driving here, I was looking at my cell phone, obviously, and there was an X-class flare that went out yesterday. And then there's been a few in the past week or so, as many people know. Now, what does that really mean? Well, we do feel that it is influencing, because that was part of that question. It is influencing the minds of people. Who are we really? This is what we're going to be talking about. We're consciousness beings first and foremost, but we're also influenced by magnetic fields and electric fields. And these magnetic fields are causing chaos to some people who are not aligned to a higher vibration. It's opening the cosmos. It's literally portal to ascension for some of us, but for others, it's just causing chaos. And I think that's why we're getting some of this chaos that the person was writing about. But we can get beyond that.
Yes, the keys of Enoch state, and this is already 50 years ago, that our electromagnetic density will be changing with solar activity, and people who are negative will be brought into violence, and those who are positive will be brought into a Christ-like energy. So we must choose to go with the upper spiral rather than the downward spiral.
Right,
It would be
not
very
to-
difficult, but we have that fantastic ability to work together and to sublimate.
Right. So not to get political, but whatever is happening, we have to look at as for us. This chaos, this breaking up of different organizations. Maybe there's a bigger plan. I'm not saying it's necessarily looks good or bad, but what if the universe is for us and it's manifesting this way so we can go to the next level?
But I'll tell you what's really
So,
sad, Alan,
what?
and I was talking with some people last night about this. You know, we don't learn to work together in harmony. Of course, we're doing pretty good, but unless there's a chaotic crisis, and this is something Barbara Marx Hubbard used to talk about, it takes crisis to breed unity. That should not happen. We should not be those people. We should be those people that have now the love, and that's big for Scott, I understand, and the harmony and understanding of each other. That's what we have to try to achieve,
Right.
not the chaos that people are living in.
I think we're going through a difficult passage, and when we get through it, it opens up into a whole new reality.
But why can't we do that before we get to crisis?
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that need to be ironed out, a lot of distortions in the field. So
Okay.
it's all coming up to see what those distortions are so we can come into a higher level of complexity. This is complexity theory. We're going to a new level of
To say it poetically, it's to define the divine spark within ourselves and then multiply it.
Right.
Share it.
Something new is happening to humanity. And it's not going to happen from the old way of looking at things. We have to be ready for the unimaginable in a good way, in a very positive. The ETs coming to the planet at this
first contact,
point will be a huge shock for most of the world. And we have to be ready for that. We have to be prepared for the unknown. My teachings have said, make known the unknown. And this is the way to do it, to meet the other.
This is the way of the higher synthesis. The old paradigms are collapsing, but at the same time, we're being shown the greater roadmap.
Right, but we don't know what the imaginable is, Susan. It's people fear the unimaginable because they're just projecting what they know onto the unknown. We have to be ready for a next level of awakening.
But I like what DR said, and I agree with this. We are here to help others.
Absolutely.
And once we start doing that, it doesn't matter, as long as we're in service and trying to seek to help others, that evolves who we are, and that brings us to higher levels of
Another way of saying that we're slaves to no one but servants of all.
Like
Every day is a day of liberation. Every day is a day of creation and co-creation.
So we're optimists, Scott.
We're optimists.
We're all
Absolutely. My mentor was Marshall Rosenberg, and he had a beautiful line. He said, "The greatest joy in life is to be of service to others. The greatest tragedy in life is when people don't know that."
Yeah, exactly.
And we are seeing a bifurcation. We're seeing those of us that are optimistic, that have done our work over the years and are following our dharma and moving forward into a new paradigm, and those that are still in the chaos of collapse. They're still in that thing.
Another one of my favorite sayings of Marshall Rosenberg, he says, never, because I interviewed him for 3 hours one day, and he said, never complain, always ask, how can life be more wonderful? So this is where we're at in this great unification of many realities.
It's a shift of consciousness away from fear into love and seeking how to help, and why we're here. That's why we're here. Our mission is to help humanity and share together and be in harmony. And that's what your mission is too, Scott.
And every day is when it goes into divine harmony.
What's that, Scott? What were we saying?
And I was going to say, really, so many of the people that are watching, our friends that are in the Zoom room, our friends that are watching the recordings, and thank you so much. And we're going to look forward to, let's get a report from you, on everything that happens at Contact in the Desert.
Yes, maybe Saturday, if you're around, we could jump on.
We've got Soul Search. Saturday night is a Soul Search show. So if you guys want to come on kind of towards the end of that show, that would be awesome. We're going to have Kalina and Cornflower is going to be with us on Saturday night playing music.
I'll bring some people in from the lobby if I can, and that would be really fun to get some of our contactee stars here.
Let's do it. And since we're talking about here is what's going to be happening on Saturday night, May 31st, it's our monthly collaboration with Tangela and Soul Search. Kalina, who we love, is going to be with us. Cornflower is going to be filling in for Omashar, who's going to be in England. Also have music with Stephen Line and other psychics and healers, Victoria Shaw, Francis Soriotto, Suzanne Wilson, who's very, very good, and Dr. Yaffe Yer. So do join us on Saturday night, and then we'll have Alan Steinfeld for the after show.
Right.
Kind of letting us know everything that's happened at Contact in the Desert.
Well, if anyone's in Southern California, it's 2 hours from LA, 2 hours from San
Are
Diego.
there still tickets available?
There's still tickets
And there's
available.
single
Yes.
day tickets, and Alan and us are doing our workshop on Saturday. We got a lot of stuff going on.
Actually, I'm
Saturday.
talking about the quantum mind and non-human intelligence on Saturday at 12:30.
Or Sunday.
No, but then we're doing a lecture later on Saturday.
Yeah, and we
All
have
right, so for our Southern California friends, and we did promote this last week, but
thank you.
It's contactinthedesert.com. Contactinthedesert.com. And it is amazing all the people that are going to be there.
Diane Hennessy Powell is the one who created the telepathic understanding about autistic kids. She is.
She's the telepathy tapes person.
Yes, she is.
tapes,
She is that person.
And one day tickets are available again. So
yeah, we'd love to see people here. There's some vendors here. There's great speakers. Whitley Strieber, our good friend.
we got all our books here. Alan's books.
Yes,
our
yes,
books.
yes. And I think.
Oh, now I'm envious that I'm not there. I should.
Hey,
We should have. Yeah, we miss
Thought
you,
you were
Scott.
gonna be here.
All right.
Scott, can I mention here too that the Renaissance Hotel had completely sold out of rooms at one point. So I found a Signature Inn over in Indio, 15 minutes away. Was a really good rate and a cool inn.
And who's talking? I'm trying to find you to put you on camera.
Trisha, yeah, here, Trisha.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Trisha.
Yeah.
Say that again for people.
Well, the Signature Inn had some room available when the Renaissance was sold out about 3-4 weeks ago. Maybe some people let go of their rooms and the Renaissance opened up, but it is about $1,100 for a room at the Renaissance. That's one or two people. So something to think about.
Yeah, there's plenty of other motels and hotels around for the local people that just have a car. And parking is easy once you get here.
I love your energetic sign language, Desiree. I'm so happy you're part of the Global Peace Drive, right, Scott?
She has become, she's been here ever since you introduced her. She's been at every show. And she works with Omashar, she works with select speakers. We love Desiree. So everybody thank Alan Steinfeld for bringing Desiree into our world.
Desiree's going to be at Contact, and she's going to be there.
Okay.
She's going to be
I'll
at
see you
Contact
this weekend.
doing private readings if you want. Yes, so that's another bonus. Thanks, Desiree. I'll look you up. This is another Desiree here.
And I'm bringing Omashar on because while you're here, I want us all to. This is our last live Omashar song for about 3 weeks because he's going to England to be with his mom, who's getting ready to enter the heavenly realm. And so let's all just send lots and lots of love to our beloved Omashar and his mom. Safe travels, easy flights, luggage gets everywhere it needs to be. And that our beloved Omashar is back with us. I think June 19th is the date he'll be back.
Yes, I'm looking forward to my yearly fish and chips. So, and it's great that you jumped on, Desiree and JJ and Alan. When you come on, there's just this presence that you bring with you, and it lifts everything into an even higher place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's see your mother do the same.
Yeah, right.
I love that, Desiree. And Omashar is going to give us a closing song, and then we've got a couple of final announcements. Stick around if you want to enjoy Omashar's song, and love you guys.
Right.
We'll see you Saturday night.
Definitely. Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Sure enough. Thank you.
Can you turn on?
Hello. Show your starry eyes, open up your heart, be with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you and I love you so. I love you so. We're here on the new road, where air is so much clearer, creating a world of ecstasy. Surrounding us is true love, filling empty spaces. Rejoice in the word unity. Take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart, be with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you and I love you so. I love you so. Take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart, dance with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am within you and I love you so. I love you so. Take off your disguise, show your starry eyes, open up your heart, be with me. Truly we're divine, let your spirit shine. I am one within you and I love you so. I love you so. La-la, dum-ba-da-dum-ba-da, dum-dum-dum-ba-dum-bum, dum-dum-dum-ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Lots of twinkles for our beloved Omashar and the Global Peace Tribe dancing team. All of you.
Such a interesting night for all of us.
I am,
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the bummer part of Jim's talk. I did feel that there's some important things for us to be aware of, but then we got to get more into the excitement about what's happening with our galactic family, and then the Hurtaks, and then beautiful Omashar music, Desiree and Diara's beautiful channelings and meditations that lifted the spirits. Desiree, I love that dress you're wearing, by the way.
I know, isn't it cool? And
Oh my God,
Thank
such
you.
a goddess. You're like, it's like the goddess has descended into the Global Peace Tribe Zoom room here.
And Scott, even though there was some perhaps some heaviness around Jim's transmission, there was also a lot of people basically saying it's almost holy to face the truth.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, it was received. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
You know, here's my suggestion, everybody. Sing more, dance more, laugh more, and have empathy for the people that are suffering, and be in the awareness of that part of reality. Don't buy into it in terms of going down. Lift up the vibe. So we keep raising our vibration through song, music, dance, eating well, communion. And we also have empathy for those that are suffering. I think that's the balance point that at least I'm striving to achieve. And I hope that that resonates for you guys. We've got two more things to do that are very special. One of our most favorite global peace drivers is having a birthday. Roger, where's Bonnie? You got to unmute, pal. Not only do we have no Bonnie,
There we
but
go.
yeah.
She is, well, let's just say she's not able to make it.
Oh, okay. I hope she's okay.
Yes. She is okay. She just has some cleanup to do in the bathroom. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, let her know that we wanted to wish her happy birthday, and if
Wish her happy birthday.
We'll try again on
online
Saturday
here
night.
and through the ethers, and send good vibes. And something went through her stomach. That's all I got to say.
All right. All right. Well, it's a birthday cleanse. She's having a birthday cleanse.
That's right.
Okay. And we also have the reawakened one. The human being formerly known as Andrew is now the reawakened Andrew, and he has a short transmission for us from the Elohim. And Andrew, a reawakened Andrew, you are on camera.
Thank you very much. Can you tell me exactly how long I have so I can time myself?
Can you keep it to 3 minutes?
Okay, let me time myself, everyone, so the transmission will be exactly 3 minutes. Hold on.
I'm going to bring on Desiree to add her beautiful.
We are one. Everyone, I welcome you to Reawakened Andrew, also will be known as Ra in short. I have become self-realized with my full true purpose on earth. I was 10% in my body as long as anybody who has ever known me since forever, since you've met me and been on this path with me. I have not been more than 10% in my body. That's why I haven't been fully self-expressed, only partially self-expressed. And that's why you've seen me as been not very present and distracted and everything. I'm 50% in my body. And if anybody's seen the movie Lucy, it's kind of like that. I'm like wondering, I just had 3 blue pills. More in that in the future. I can't tell you about that right now. It's a secret. But what I'm telling you is I just came out of the Matrix, like the movie in the Matrix exactly. I came out of the machines. My reality is on the 5th dimensional level right now. And I have huge more messages to give you. But I only have 3 minutes. It's been an hour, a minute and 30 seconds. So I have a minute and 30 seconds left. I'm going to be doing the transmission tapes now. The transmission tapes are high frequency at the same level and same high unified field frequency as the telepathy tapes. I am a neurodivergent. I've been a neurodivergent all my life. I've been hiding. I've been holding secrets. I've been withdrawn, closed, blocked, sabotaged, judged, criticized, ridiculed for who I am. People have thought I was gay all my life. I have the most feminine energy ever on the planet, holding the most frequency of feminine energy, holding the flame of the divine feminine in the straight male human vessel. It's only a human vessel for a temporary time, as we all know. We are all one. I have 40 seconds left. Okay, great. I just wanted to let all of you know that I want to connect with all 29 of you. Please email me at reawakened@gmail.com if you do not know me and do not have my contact. And when you spell reawakened, everybody, it ends in NND, not NED. Okay, so it's reawakened@gmail.com. I also tell you to go to planetheart.org. That's my organization since 2007. I have 10 seconds left. I love all of you. I see your soul. I feel your heart. I know your truth. We are one. I have 3 seconds. Aho. Thank you. Namaste.
Welcome to the new you, and we're very grateful for your presence in our awakening world.
Oh, just one more thing. This came from the Elohim, and directly from Barbara Marks Hubbard. And all of the transmissions I gave you today in chat, please, everyone who can on their computers, say the chat. If you cannot say the chat and you're on your mobile phone, please contact Scott Takamis, who saves chats all the time, or me, and I will send them to you. Please, thank you very much. Aho.
All right.
We need to make sure we have the right website there for him. How you spelled that?
REAWAKENND, reawakened at gmail.com. PlanetHeart.org is my website since 2007. Birthed Planet Heart in 2007 from God, Creator, all that is, the energy of love. Aho, thank you. Namaste.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been kind of an interesting evening. Can you imagine what it was like for me at 5:55 when my internet went out? Thank God for Omashar once again saving the day. So I want to thank him. And Diara is going to be my co-pilot for the next few weeks. So Diara, you never know when you might have to run a show by yourself. So, things happen. And Desiree, thank you so much. Have a great time at Contact in the Desert. And we'll look forward to seeing all of you, hopefully on Saturday night. And safe travels, beloved Omashar. And we're still going to play some of your videos. We can't go 3 weeks without you. So I do have some of your videos.
You have quite a few, and I have a couple of hours tomorrow morning. I'm thinking of recording a one song for a surprise guest appearance one of the days.
That would be awesome. That'd be great. We could use that.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.